Hey Ghost Heads, it's Devin from Channeling Spirits. New York, New York, the city so nice they named it twice. Of the quintessential New York films, Ghostbusters ranks high on the list. It's a love letter to the city that never sleeps, so we wanted to explore all the busts that happen in the Big Apple. We're going to include events from the first two films, the 2009 video game, and Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. In addition, we'll also cover sites mentioned in deleted scenes, early drafts of the scripts, and in the novelizations. New York City is a massive metropolitan area that covers 5 boroughs, but we're going to be focusing on where the majority of the action is, in Manhattan.
Hey, New York, what a town.
At 23 years old, Dan Aykroyd was the youngest cast member of the new late-night comedy show NBC's Saturday Night, later called Saturday Night Live. Thus began Dan's decades-long love affair with New York City. It's also where he met another up-and-coming comedian, John Belushi. Having worked together on 1941, The Blues Brothers, and Neighbors, Aykroyd was working on another vehicle to star the two of them. He wanted to make a ghostly caper with his comedic partner in the vein of Abbott and Costello, The Bowery Boys, and Olsen and Johnson. John Belushi passed away while Dan was still writing the first drafts of the script that would go on to become Ghostbusters. Harold Ramis was brought in to ground the piece, but the setting of New York was there from its inception.
Danny's script started with the Ghostbusters already being in business. Paranormal events were happening all over New York, and Ghostbusters was kind of an established franchise.
The earliest draft that has survived is dated August 5th, 1983. As in the final film, it begins at the New York Public Library. The opening description reads, "The sun shines brightly on the classic facade of the main library at 5th Avenue and 42nd Street." In the Ghostbusters universe, some buildings share exact addresses and facades, others might have modified exteriors or slightly different addresses than the real world. The library's actual address is at 476 5th Avenue, which likely matches considering Ray says,
"At the main branch of the New York Public Library on 5th Avenue.
Alice the librarian starts out at the beautiful Rose reading room in the main branch, which is located on the 3rd floor. Again, the August 5th draft specifically refers to the main reading room with its long oak tables and reading lamps with green glass shades. In the 2009 video game, they enter a first floor similar to Astor Hall, but the reading room is also there. The shots where Alice descends into the basement were actually filmed at the Los Angeles Central Library. Grim Life Collective has a great video showing how that part of the library looks now. Ghostbusters the video game explains the differences in layout, stating that Ivo Shandor renovated the library.
But he also did some renovations on existing buildings and a number of public works. There was controversy, because a lot of people thought the work was unnecessary.
Ghostbusters Frozen Empire echoes that there is more beneath the main branch that goes unseen.
Upstairs is just for show. Gilded research rooms where struggling actors can Twitch stream and buy crypto. The old library is below.
The ghost stalking Alice is never named in the films, but has subsequently been called the Grey Lady or identified as the ghost of Eleanor Twitty. While she's never trapped on film, IDW's Ghostbusters Year 1, Issue 2 has the 4 Busters finally trap her, as does the video game. However, by 2024, she's still on the loose, attached to her stacks. The title shot is taken on the steps of Columbia University's Low Library. A bronze sculpture is seen and is the personification of Alma Mater, which means nourishing mother in Latin. Across from 116th Street is Ferris Booth Hall, which is no longer there. It was demolished in 1996 to make way for Alfred Lerner Hall, the student center. Weaver Hall, home to the psychology department, was filmed at the real-life Havemeyer Hall.
Yeah, it was the iconography of the movie.
Yeah, and here we are there's no Weaver Hall, but this is Columbia University.
According to Don Shea in his book Making Ghostbusters, although permission was granted for the production unit to shoot on the Columbia University campus, it was with the understanding that the school not be identified as such in the film. In fact, in the August 5th, 1983 draft, the college was going to be New York University in Greenwich Village. The September 30th, 1983 draft would place the boys as professors at Columbia University. After their encounter with the Grey Lady, Peter, Ray, and Egon return to campus and walk next to Low Library North towards Weaver Hall. Peter and Ray are outside Kent Hall overlooking Low Plaza when they decide to go into business for themselves. When they decide to take out a third mortgage on Ray's childhood home, they exit the Manhattan City Bank. This is actually located just across the street from the New York Public Library at 489 Fifth Avenue, as evidenced by the 489 repeated on the doors. The bank is featured twice in Frozen Empire, sort of. During the sewer dragon chase, Gary Gruberson crashes into several bikes advertising Manhattan City Bank. Then, when the possessor animates the lion statue, you can see 489 Fifth Avenue in the background. With capital for a startup, Peter, Egon, and Ray look for a headquarters to home their new venture. In the August 5th, 1983 draft, it describes it as a 4-story fire station built by the city around the turn of the century. It lists the fire hall as Engine Company 93, which is actually a real fire hall in Upper Manhattan at Washington Heights. The novelization, Ghostbusters the Supernatural Spectacular by Richard Mueller, says it's located in an alley near Mott and Pell, which is in southern Manhattan in Chinatown. The firehouse used for the exterior is in Tribeca, not far away at 14 North Moore Street. However, the address in the Ghostbusters universe is at 110 North Moore, which is used in business cards in Ghostbusters II and the police notices in Frozen Empire. Based on the orbs emerging from downtown after the containment unit is shut down and the map in the mayor's office, we can see the firehouse is located in Tribeca like its real-life counterpart. While Hook and Ladder 8 was used for the exterior, the interior was originally filmed in a now decommissioned firehouse in Los Angeles, Fire Station number 23.
It just seems a little pricey for a unique fixer-upper opportunity, that's all.
Like the August 5th script describes, both were built around the turn of the century. Hook and Ladder was built in 1903 and was originally a double-door station. When Varick Street was widened in 1913, it reduced it to its more familiar single door. However, Frozen Empire shows us that the station likely never had its double doors in the Ghostbusters universe. In 1904, the company responds not to a fire, but bodies inexplicably frozen.
For the first time in New York history, a room full of people froze to death in the middle of July.
While the boys are starting their business, things are starting to get weird in Dana Barrett's apartment. Like the University and Fire Hall, the August 5th, 1983 draft is very specific with the location of her apartment. However, it isn't where it ends up in the final film. The script has it at 78th Street and Riverside Drive, in the Upper West Side.
Johnny, where in the hell are you from, anyway?
The Upper West Side?
The September 30th, 1983 draft put it closer to the park, at 78th and Central Park West, which doesn't exist. 78th doesn't go all the way to the park because the American Museum of Natural History is there. When scouting, Spook Central almost ended up further south. In Making Ghostbusters, associate producer Michael Gross explains, "Our first choice for the apartment was at 1 Fifth Avenue. Washington Square is close by, and we felt it would have been very dramatic at the end for the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man to lumber past the Washington Square Monument Arch." The final location did end up being along Central Park West.
According to this, his name's Louis Tully. Lives on Central Park West.
Including Dana Barrett's old building on Central Park West.
In the real world, the building is at 55 Central Park West. It was built in 1929 and doesn't tower nearly as tall as the one in the film. In Ghostbusters, the address is changed to 550, as evidenced under the awning. The architect, Ivo Shandor, placed a Gozerian temple atop the Art Deco base.
Art Deco, very nice.
After investigating Dana Barrett's apartment, the Ghostbusters finally get a call to suit up. In a deleted scene, a noxious spirit has been harassing newlyweds in the Sedgwick Hotel, room 1210.
Well, most of the original staff knows about the 12th floor. The disturbances, I mean.
Yeah.
According to Ghostbusters the video game, Godfrey McAllister Sedgwick founded the hotel in 1897. His portrait was commissioned in 1910, which would go on to become a cursed artifact. The cult of Gozer conducted rituals and sacrifices on its grounds in the early part of the 20th century. This would be followed by several deaths, murders, and suicides, but eventually things would settle down.
But it's been quiet for years, up until 2 weeks ago.
They arrive at the Sedgwick Hotel, but unlike the other locations, it's entirely fictional. So, where is it? In the August 5th draft, the Ectomobile rounds the corner and heads up the West Side Highway, but there isn't more description given to its location. In Don Shay's Making Ghostbusters, producer Joe Medjuck says, "We shot our hotel exteriors and the inside lobby scenes at the Biltmore Hotel in downtown Los Angeles. That wasn't our original intent, though, primarily because we assumed from the start that we wouldn't be able to find a good location in LA. So the plan was to shoot the hotel scenes during our location shoot in New York. One of the spots we considered was the Waldorf Astoria, but their lobby area was too small and it would have been very costly. Manhattan's Waldorf Astoria is in Midtown East at 301 Park Avenue. Tobin's Spirit Guide, Official Ghostbusters edition by Eric Burnham, definitively states the Sedgwick Slimer had been haunting the 12th floor of the Sedgwick Hotel on Park Avenue since the mid-1920s. In 2008, Sierra was building a prototype demo for what would become Ghostbusters the video game. At the end of the level, a bill of damages comes on screen, listing the Sedgwick's address at 417 Fifth Avenue. This is a few blocks south of the Manhattan City Bank. Ghostbusters the Supernatural Spectacular gives further evidence that it's somewhere in Midtown. The novel says it was built in the 30s on the edge of the Garment District. All these locations are off the West Side Highway, and we'll pinpoint its specific address a little later. After their onslaught in the ballroom, Onion Head is caught. Their exit out of the five-star hotel is actually shown during the montage. The press gather as Ray walks out with the smoking trap. A continuation of the scene is played as Peter announces,
24 hours a day, 7 days a week. No job is too big, no fee is too big.
The press leads to an avalanche of cases, some that didn't make it in the final script. In the August 5th, 1983 draft, Ecto-1 pulls up to a luxury health club, which has a double set of doors that read, New York Health and Racket.
I also play racquetball. Do you have any hobbies?
The Ghostbusters triumphantly emerge from the club. A headline reads, Spook Squashed at Racket Club. Though the scene didn't make the cut, the headline can be briefly seen in the background of the film. With their establishment in 1973, New York Health and Racket's first location was at 1433 York Avenue, close by to where Oscar's carriage stopped on 1st Avenue. In the August 5th draft, this is followed by another bus downtown. Ecto-1 parks outside of the original site of the USSA office in New York at 32 Old Slip. Inside the bullion vault, the team is in the process of expertly trapping a vapor which flits above dollies of shining gold bars. They maneuver the being like practiced pros and hit the trap. There is the customary pink flash. This is followed by a headline that reads, Feds admit, Ghostbusters get ghosts in the gold. The scene was likely cut because the U.S. Mint put the property up for auction in 1983. By the September 30th, 1983 draft, that had been replaced by a bust at the Mud Club. The script reads, The Ghostbusters emerge from a new wave club. Stance is holding a trap. A group of strangely dressed punks with very unusual haircuts watches as they stow their gear in the back of the ambulance. 3 of the punks are dressed in futuristic jumpsuits and Devo helmets that bear some resemblance to the Ghostbusters' own uniforms. The punks and Ghostbusters stare at each other. The Mud Club was located at 77th White Street in Tribeca. It closed in the spring of 1983, so it too never made it to the final film. However, in the background of the firehouse, a newspaper headline announces, Ghostbusters pinch punk poltergeist. Like the Racket Club, this may be a nod to this forgotten scene. This was replaced by a scene that was filmed, but ultimately deleted. The October 7th, 1983 draft has the Ectomobile pulling up to a Gothic apartment in Tudor City. The Ghostbusters jump out and hurry into the lobby. A policeman notices the Ectomobile is illegally parked and walks over. As the policeman approaches, a double set of antennae on the roof are automatically activated. They rotate and tilt to point at the policeman. The policeman is a little unnerved by the antennae and starts to walk around the car, but the antennae follow him with unerring accuracy. Eager to get away from the vehicle, he quickly writes a parking ticket and sticks it on the windshield wiper. As the policeman withdraws his hand, the ticket heats up, bursts into flames, and burns up. They actually filmed it at 70 Madison Avenue in front of Truffles Cafe, which was most recently Nello. The scene was cut in part because it slowed down the montage, but director Ivan Reitman just felt it didn't work with the film. In making Ghostbusters, he stated, there was no reason for the Ectomobile to have magical powers. It had been done with the Bluesmobile and the Blues Brothers, where the car did somersaults, things like that, and I didn't think it was particularly successful. I don't like movies that have no rules, where anything is possible. We were already asking the audience to believe that there was a piece of equipment that could trap a ghost. Asking them to accept an ectomobile with supernatural powers was just too much. However, a possessed Ecto-1 would appear in Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. Another scene left on the cutting room floor was Ecto-1 breaking down in front of the United Nations building. According to Joe Medjuck in Making Ghostbusters, we didn't really have permits to shoot on any of these places, we just made quick stops here and there. So what ended up in the actual montage? We see a reporter on the corner of Broadway and Chambers. The Spangler family would later drive down Chambers in pursuit of the sewer dragon. After waking up from another call, Ecto-1 turns a corner. This shot is actually flipped, with Ecto going from West 116th and turning onto Broadway. West 116th actually cuts through Columbia University's campus. Like the public library and bank, several locations were shot nearby to make filming easier. Another example is in Chinatown. Mott Street is essentially the main street of Chinatown, which is where Peter and Ray are given the Peking duck from the gracious patron. In the background, the Tai Hung Lao restaurant is visible at 70 Mott Street. Later in the montage, the boys in gray are jogging from 56 to 64 Mott Street, possibly pursuing the Chinatown spook mentioned in the New York Post article. A little further north in Little Italy, Ecto-1 makes a right onto Mulberry from Hester Street. Further south on Mulberry is where Egon steps out with a smoking trap and says, when Ray emerges and shouts, he's at 16 East 63rd Street, which is right around the corner from Madison Avenue, which is where the parking ticket was rejected. We then move over to Rockefeller Center, where a cluster of shots were filmed. The Busters march away from Rockefeller Plaza, with the Prometheus statue prominently behind them. Right across the street is Saks Fifth Avenue. Earlier in the montage, Ecto-1 pulls up to the iconic store with St. Patrick's Cathedral on the left. Ghostbusters The Supernatural Spectacular has a headline that reads, Phantom Postulant removed from St. Patrick's. Another one reads, Ghostbusters clear Empire Spook Building. The landmark is seen after the containment unit is shut down, but never cleared in the film. This skyline shot comes from the observatory atop Rockefeller Center. The last two busts from the montage are harder to pin down. Casey Kasem recounts,
still making headlines all across the country, the Ghostbusters are at it again. This time at the fashionable dance club, The Rose. The boys in gray slugged it out with a pretty pesky poltergeist, then stayed on to dance the night away with some of the lovely ladies who witnessed the disturbance. This is Casey Kasem. Now, on with the countdown.
There wasn't actually a Rose dance club, but IDW's Ghostbusters Year 1, Issue 3 detailed the bust. It's visually based on the Palladium, which was located at 126th East 14th Street. Technically, the building operated as a concert hall in 1984, and it wasn't converted into a nightclub until 1985. Finally, there's the Fort Demeering Phantom, one of the more difficult ghosts to place. The scene dates back to the August 5th, 1983 draft. While driving the Hudson Parkway, Winston asks Ray,
"Do you believe in God?"
Never met him.
And have their apocalyptic conversation. They arrive at Fort Demeering. Ecto-1 pulls up to a pair of massive stone parapets and a hewn timber gate set in a thick redoubt on an escarpment high above the river. Ray tells Winston,
Nothing. Why don't you go check the armory out, and I'll give a quick sweep in through here, see if I can get any readings.
In the barracks, Stan sweeps the room and finds nothing unusual. He fingers an officer's uniform. It is a beautiful light blue with thick gold shoulder pads. After removing his pack, he puts on the uniform jacket. He steps in the full-length mirror and models it, striking a few heroic poses. He shrugs, sits on the bed, bouncing the mattress and squeezing it. Ray drifts off to sleep. His Gaspers meter starts going off as the doors to the armoire open and smoke. An eerie glow is cast over the quarters. Ray turns in his sleep and awakens suddenly. This is where the scene in the montage cuts in with the ghost handling Ray's neutrona wand, if you know what I mean.
man in there?
Later, man!
Like the Rose, Fort Demeering isn't a real-world location. Egon later confirms it's on the Hudson River. The shots were filmed at the Columbia Ranch, so we can't pinpoint it with any more accuracy. Following this flurry of paranormal activity, Winston Zeddemore interviews to join the team. Peter and Ray return covered in slime. The August 5th draft expanded this. Winston remarks, "You guys look like shit." Stantz, holding the trap, explains, "Yeah, well, we chased this sucker for an hour, finally got it cornered, and it puked this slime all over us. Why don't you take this down to Spangler?" This is followed by Venkman going to Janine and dropping off the invoice.
Here's the paper on the Brooklyn. She paid with Visa.
The idea of a spirit puking slime would be regurgitated in Frozen Empire. Other than the call came from Brooklyn, we don't have much details. Pukey isn't particularly quick or spry, so it's hard to imagine taking an hour to capture him.
How'd you get all the way up here?
With Winston hired, Peter is able to check in with their first client, the nice lady who paid them in advance before she became a dog. He meets Dana Barrett as she exits Avery Fisher Hall in Lincoln Center, home to the New York Philharmonic. Venkman asks her out on a date and plans to pick her up on Thursday. In Ghostbusters the Supernatural Spectacular, Peter is in a cab ride heading to that date. He is thinking about how the National Reporter, a fictitious supermarket tabloid, ran a series of hit pieces on them. As revenge, Peter and Winston released a phantasm, a large and voracious creature that terrorized the editorial offices of the Reporter, jamming typewriters, exposing film, setting fires in wastebaskets. The toilets had overflowed, light bulbs exploded, the phones sang obscene ditties. The operation of the scandal sheet had come to a standstill. The presses were full of ectoslime. While there isn't a National Reporter based in Manhattan, the New York Post had a similar reputation for sensational headlines. Their headquarters were located at 1211 Avenue of the Americas.
The very news where you mistake. No, the Times is going to be interested in this, and you know the Post.
That night, Dana is possessed, and Lewis is chased out of his apartment. He runs across Central Park West and is cornered at Tavern on the Green. In typical New York fashion, patrons are slightly bothered by his screams before returning to their meal.
You mess with one of us, you mess with all of us!
You know, you are a real humanitarian.
I don't think he's human.
There were at least 2 deleted scenes where Vince Clortho ran about. The first occurs in Central Park, where muggers attempt to rob him underneath a tunnel. This was actually filmed at MacArthur Park in LA. In the final film, we see the Keymaster make his way down to Merchant's Gate, with the main monument behind him. After horsing around, we see him run off, but a deleted scene shows him running into traffic across 59th Street. He passes some female solicitors and looks in the window at 240 West 59th. The building hasn't changed much since 1984, but it's no longer a clothing store.
It's a Starbucks now.
Early in the morning, Stantz and Zeddemore are returning in the ectomobile after a long night. Coming from Brooklyn, they are driving eastbound on the Manhattan Bridge. They return after the containment unit has been shut off. Vince Clortho has escaped, and several spirits they had already captured are running amok. Vince Clortho is a terror dog with a terrible sense of direction. He initially wanders east down White, and then later ends up further south and in front of the subway entrance at Murray and Broadway. This is where the subway ghost bursts out and frightens locals. From there, he follows Broadway north, as a series of spooks, specters, and ghosts terrify the teeming masses. The August 5th, 1983 draft mentions him walking through the Bowery, heading briskly and purposely uptown, gazing at the symmetrical lights in the sky. The draft also mentions St. Mark's Playhouse, a worn, graffiti-spattered, $1.99 triple bill movie house in the New Wave district near 2nd Avenue. Theater 80 St. Mark's was a real-life theater in the East Village. Before it closed down, it was at 133 2nd Avenue. In the script, rowdy theater patrons are transfixed as a procession of phantasms emerge in a single file through the illuminated screen. Vince Clortho heads north up Broadway into Herald Square. The Supernatural Spectacular describes another incident in the customer payroll department of the Security Atlantic Bank and Trust. The department manager is about to address her team when an invisible hand begins tickling her leg. The August 5th draft shares this scene, but has it take place in the accounts department of a major corporation. The unseen molester assaults several women throughout the office. As Harold Ramis explained in Making Ghostbusters, ghost sex is a classic supernatural phenomenon, so we thought it would be funny and sort of naughty to have an invisible ghost molesting all these typists, tickling them and goosing them and ripping their blouses open. The more we thought about it, though, the more adolescent and tasteless it seemed. We had much more material than we could possibly use for the ghost montage, and there were other things we liked better, so we never even shot it. There isn't a Security Atlantic Bank and Trust, but there was an Atlantic Bank headquartered at 960 Avenue of the Americas, which Vince would have passed. The minion of Gozer heads up 7th before cutting back over to Broadway in the middle of Times Square, right in front of the George M. Cohan statue. The Sedgwick Slimer makes his second appearance nearby. The August 5th, 1983 draft has the Green Ghost emerge from a soubrette hot dog pushcart just outside the Sedgwick Hotel. The actual shot was filmed right outside the Rockefeller Center, not far from the hotel. At the end of the film, he also flies up Central Park West, and in the sequels, he frequents the firehouse in Tribeca. In the video game, Onion Head returns to the Sedgwick as his familiar territory, but he clearly isn't bound to that location, which is why Ray describes him as a full roaming vapor.
Sir, what you had there was what we refer to as a focused, non-terminal repeating phantasm, or a Class 5 full roaming vapor. Real nasty one, too.
Ghostbusters The Supernatural Spectacular by Richard Mueller describes a Class 4 free repeating Geist streaking up the Avenue of the Americas, bursting streetlights, when it spotted the marquee of the Radio City Music Hall. This is followed by Roger Hubert looking to catch a cab. A wisp sneaks up the tailpipe of a taxi on Madison Avenue, between 61st and 62nd Street. Hubbard demands the zombie driver to
Columbia Building, 57th Street. I'm in a hurry, so let's not dawdle.
He's going to the Columbia Artist Management Incorporated building at 165 West 57th Street. No relation to Columbia University or Columbia Pictures. The undead driver heads west on 62nd, likely taking 5th Avenue south before turning right on 57th. The building is directly across Carnegie Hall, not far from Broadway. Vince Clortho at last ends his long odyssey at 550 Central Park West. Spook Central.
Your girlfriend lives in the corner penthouse of Spook Central.
While all of this is happening, the Ghostbusters are locked up. Making Ghostbusters says, the incarceration scene was shot on location at an actual New York prison facility, now out of commission and essentially abandoned. However, no one has been able to pinpoint exactly where this was. A map in Making Ghostbusters shows it may have been somewhere in Little Italy. Story-wise, it would make sense if it took place at 16 Erickson Place, the headquarters of the 1st Precinct. The 1st Precinct serves the Tribeca area and isn't far from the firehouse. The Ghostbusters are released and taken to City Hall to speak with the mayor. Lenny relents, giving the boys in gray his support to solve the spiritual crisis. The National Guard and NYPD get ready at the nearby Manhattan Municipal Building. This is where Peter yells, "Come on, let's run some red light!" They arrive in the Upper West Side at the heart of the interdimensional cross-rip. They aren't able to stop Gozer's arrival, who comes in a pre-chosen form. Tired of toying with mortals, the god of destruction demands they choose the form of their destructor.
Oh, I get it! Oh, very cute. Whatever we think of. If we think of J. Edgar Hoover will appear and destroy us, okay? So empty your heads. Empty your heads. Don't think of anything. We've only got one shot at this.
In the film, the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man mysteriously appears behind buildings, but where did he come from? The August 5th script gives us an answer. It's actually Winston who conjures up Stay Puft, with Egon still shouting, "Look!" They all turn and look west. A portion of the Hudson begins to boil.
And the seas boiled, and the skies fell.
Manhattanites are fleeing from the city on anything that will float. Then a massive form as big as a grain freighter begins to rise up from below the surface. They watch as the gigantic being continues to rise, revealing a head and arms.
What is it? It can't be. What did you do, Ray?
The huge being sloshes ponderously towards the West Bank, waist deep in the river. Then it climbs out of the water and stands up on the riverbank, its great bulk rising 300 feet in the air.
It's the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man.
This reveal made more sense when Dana Barrett's apartment was at 78th and Riverside. In the map in Making Ghostbusters, it shows the original and actual path of Stay Puft, both showing him coming from the west. We'll make a case later that the Marshmallow Man may have actually still emerged from the Hudson. The film also shows Gozer heading north on Broadway, after turning on what appears to be West 56th Street. This causes mass hysteria at Columbus Circle, which is where Central Park West begins. He continues to head north, coming up to the Holy Trinity Lutheran Church, which he demolishes.
Nobody steps on a church in my town!
The unstoppable juggernaut begins his ascent up 550 Central Park West. In a last act of desperation, the Ghostbusters cross the streams and save the city. Peter gets the girl, Ray gets a smoke, Egon gets a brain tissue sample, and Winston gets a steady paycheck.
I love this town!
Despite the happy ending, things didn't stay great for the Ghostbusters.
After all we did for this city?
Yeah. We conjured up a 100-foot Marshmallow Man, threw the top 3 floors off an uptown high-rise, ended up getting sued by every state, county, and city agency in New York.
Peter and Dana Barrett broke up. She is a bouncing baby boy in a new apartment in the Upper East Side. At the beginning of the movie, pink slime oozes out of the sidewalk. In the November 27, 1988 draft of Ghostbusters II, Dana pushes her buggy down East 77th Street. The final film actually shot there, and you can see the address of 315 on the awning. Dana walks a little bit further to her apartment at 325 East 77th. Her carriage begins to creep forward independently, and then picks up speed. It rushes towards 335 East 77th and dodges some carpenters. The buggy abruptly stops in the middle of First Avenue, and you can see the Green Kitchen Diner behind Dana, which still stands there today. The prosecutor later confirms the location.
Would you please tell the court why it is that you and your co-defendants took it upon yourselves to dig a very big hole in the middle of First Avenue?
Once again, Dana is being pulled into the world of the paranormal. In the August 5th, 1988 draft of the sequel, Stantz and Winston arrive at a brownstone at West 77th. The actual exterior was filmed at 420 East 78th Street, not far from Dana's apartment. So, is it on the west or east side? Ray and Winston's journey in the Ecto 1 just makes it more confusing. It starts southbound on Columbus Avenue, crossing West 89th Street. They are suddenly going east on Central Park South with the St. Moritz Hotel in the background. The next shot has them on West 58th and turning south onto Broadway. Then continue back down on Columbus Avenue, where it turns left on West 88th Street, only to end up across town. Still, the majority of the shots are closer to the Upper West Side than the East, so we're going to place it where the script did on West 77th. After the split, Dr. Spangler returned to Columbia University. In the August 5th draft, he's conducting a lecture at the Einstein Institute for Advanced Theoretical Research. Later drafts would drop the Einstein from the title.
Einstein did his best stuff when he was working as a patent clerk.
Dana Barrett walks up the steps of Avery Hall in Columbia's campus. After asking about Peter, we find out what happened to him. In the August 5th, 1988 script, we cut to the interior of the Manhattan Cable Building. The final film would have this be the studios of WKRR-TV, where Venkman hosts The World of the Psychic. Manhattan Cable isn't real, but there is a cable building in Manhattan. It was the former headquarters of the defunct cable car company, Manhattan Traction Company. The building isn't a TV studio, but it is very close to 644 Broadway, Peter's apartment.
Hi. Come on in, this is my place.
After checking in with the boys, we go to the Manhattan Museum of Art, where Dana has been working postpartum. The exterior of the building is the Alexander Hamilton U.S. Custom House, located at the southern tip of Manhattan. Within the world of Ghostbusters, the museum exists in Midtown. In the August 5th, 1988 draft, the museum is specifically the Metropolitan Museum of Art. This was eventually changed by the November 27, 1988 draft. Despite the name change, it's also along the east side of Central Park. This explains how Janos is able to go from the museum to Dana's apartment during the blackout, since she's only a few blocks away. Still, the exact location is a little murky. When the Ghostbusters go to investigate the museum, the iconic double towers of the majestic apartments creep above the park's trees. That would mean the museum is located where the Frick collection is. But later, when the slime shell envelops the museum, it also looks like the reservoir is behind it, and the majestic apartments aren't visible. We also might be seeing the buildings along Central Park South. It's a bit hard to tell. We'll figure out the exact location shortly.
If everything you're doing is bad, I want you to know this.
We know from the first film, Ray loves his esoteric texts.
I could look for the name Zool in the usual literature.
Spate's catalog.
Tobin's Spirit Guide.
Yeah.
So it's no surprise that he opened Ray's occult books. The August 5th draft states the shop is located on a quaint commercial block in Greenwich Village. They actually filmed it at 33 St. Mark's Place in East Village. The three founders reunite in Ray's occult and head up to the Upper East Side. After digging a very large hole in the middle of First Avenue, the exterminators, formerly known as the Ghostbusters, are arraigned at Foley Square Courthouse in Lower Manhattan. This is where the Scoleri brothers appear and are quickly entrapped, leading to the Ghostbusters' return. And who's in front to interview them? WKRR, the studio that Peter works for, of course. Just like in the first film, there were cases that were scripted but never seen. After being back in business, the Busters are called to the World Trade Center in the August 5th draft. The Ghostbusters are ushered into the well-appointed office of Ed Petrosius, a super successful, very tightly wound and highly charged bond salesman. The financier has pyrogenesis, and his agitation causes a wastebasket to spontaneously combust. Frozen Empire would return to this idea with Nadim, which becomes essential to defeating Garaka.
You may not choose to believe it, but there are many stories of people with inexplicable gifts going back eons. The strength of Samson, the speed of Achilles.
Perfect pitch, sick dance moves.
Even pyrokinesis.
During the montage, we see Ecto 1A traveling Columbus, just south of where Ray and Winston were traveling to the birthday party. Tricky editing then cuts to Ecto on First Avenue, turning right onto East 76th Street, a block south of where Oscar's stroller stopped. Wearing some darker duds and Santa hats, the Busters exit out to Broadway from a store called Record Explosion, which is now a Starbucks.
It's a Starbucks now.
This is actually directly across from the U.S. Custom House, the museum's exterior. The shots of Ray and Egon collecting mood slime on the steps and the payphone take place at the Church of St. Paul the Apostle and the nearby corner of West 59th. The payphone is no longer there.
It's a Starbucks now.
At the Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis Reservoir, a group of joggers are accosted along the route by a ghost. The path is along the east side of the park, with the Central Park South gatehouse in view as Peter traps him. Later in the montage, Ecto 1A is driving north on Hudson Street and takes a quick left onto Borough Street, running a red light. The strange look Peter gives Egon is because this is from a deleted scene. After Ray was entranced in the museum by Vigo, he tries to drive into a tree before being cold-cocked by Winston.
Are you all right?
What?
We also see the Ghostbusters enter a high-end glassworks store named Orifors. This was an actual shop located at 58 East 57th Street. Later in the montage, the boys head to Ecto 1 at East 57th and Park Avenue, just around the corner. Finally, we see the Ectomobile driving FDR Drive along East 36th and 37th. After a mood slime fiend tries to grab Oscar, the Barretts stay at Peter's. Believing there is a connection between Vigo's portrait and the slime, the boys in gray investigate the museum. Photographs reveal a river of slime behind Vigo, just like the one Ray saw under First Avenue.
No, we analyzed the photos you took of Vigo. The spectrogram shows a river of slime flowing behind him.
Just like the one I saw underground. Now we're going into the subway and sewer system to see if we can trace the source of the flow.
The city likely filled the hole, making direct access to the river under First inaccessible. But there isn't a subway route that goes under First Avenue. In 1989, the closest would have been the IRT East Side line, which runs under Lexington Avenue. But as far back as 1939, there was a proposal to extend the line running under 6th Avenue, which would have run east under 76th Street, a never-completed Manhattan-Queens connection. In the history of Ghostbusters, this line may have been fully or partially built, but it was actually abandoned in 1939, 50 years before the events of Ghostbusters II.
These lines have been abandoned for 50 years.
So, while walking under East 76th, Winston encounters a spectral locomotive. Nearby, Ray finds an entrance to the River of Slime under First Avenue. Meanwhile, Peter takes Dana to an upscale restaurant. In the August 5, 1988 draft, the restaurant is named Memphis and is located on the Upper West Side. The November 27th draft would later change the name to Armand's, but keep the location. Without any further details, it's hard to pinpoint it exactly, so we'll place it as a stand-in for the fine French restaurant Café des Artistes, which was found at 1 West 67th Street. After going for a swim, Winston, Egon, and Ray interrupt the romantic evening. The police escort all four of them for scaring the streets. They're taken to Gracie Mansion and reunite with
Lenny! Big man!
The Ghostbusters.
Gracie Mansion is the official residence of the mayor of New York City. This is also where Lenny later has a conversation with the previous mayor.
Jack, I spent an hour last night in my bedroom talking to Fiorello LaGuardia, and he's been dead for 40 years.
Neither Lenny or Jack Hardemeyer are convinced that nasty New Yorkers are creating a river of slime. Instead, the latter has the Busters committed to Parkview Psychiatric Hospital. Like several other locations, early drafts used real locations that were later fictionalized. In the November 27, 1988 script, they are taken to Bellevue Hospital, which is located in Kips Bay. After seeing Peter taken away, Dana returns to his apartment, only to see Oscar abducted by a ghostly nanny looking eerily like Janos Poha. He comes in from the south, with the Twin Towers behind him, and takes off north with the Empire State Building in the distance. The River of Slime fills the underground tunnels and begins to ooze out onto the surface. In the November 27th script, the chaos begins at a Hudson River pier. A drain pipe starts dripping slime into the river near the Cunard line docks. Cunard's RMS Carpathia delivered 700 survivors of the Titanic disaster to Pier 54. The intended final destination of the unsinkable ship was a few docks up at Pier 59, though the final film has the ghostly passengers arrive at Pier 34.
It's some dock supervisor down at Pier 34.
What's the problem?
He says the Titanic just arrived.
The November 27, 1988 draft also has the Central Park Zoo impacted, with psychoreactive slime oozing from a zookeeper's hose. A full-sized pterodactyl screams at him and flies off into the darkness. The scene was never filmed, but a line references the encounter.
Is this a big dinosaur or a little dinosaur? Oh, just a skeleton, huh? Well, which way was it heading?
In the September 29, 1988 draft, Aykroyd and Ramis returned to a scene that was never shot for the first film. Once again, St. Mark's Playhouse was to have a ghostly procession march through the screen. And, once again, it was never filmed. The cinema specter that chases people out of the Movieland Theater might be what became of this. This was filmed in Times Square at 1567 Broadway. There was a discarded scene from Ghostbusters that did make its way into the sequel. In the August 5, 1983 script, a model is walking down the runway in a very exotic fur coat. She reaches the end of the runway and pirouettes for the customers. Suddenly, a yapping mink head pops out of the shoulder of the coat, then another and another, until the whole coat is a mass of writhing, yapping rodents. In the September 29, 1988 draft of Ghostbusters II, psychoreactive slime begins to spout from the fountain at 59th and 5th, with the Plaza Hotel in the background. This is the Pulitzer Fountain. The draft has the woman step out of a limousine and walk up the steps of the plaza when she is bit. The scene was actually filmed in front of the Biltmore Hotel in Los Angeles, the same one used for the Sedgwick. You could make a case she was going to the Sedgwick, but we like the plaza.
What kind of idiots do you have working here?
The finest in New York.
We see a gigantic ghoul under Washington Square Park's famous arch, down in Greenwich Village. A flurry of calls comes into the police. According to the Ghostbusters II novelization by Ed Naha, this is the Midtown North Police Precinct. They would have jurisdiction over Times Square, the Plaza, and the Pterodactyl if it flew south from Central Park. Considering they also got a call about a park bench.
Wait a sec. What was chasing you in the park? The park bench was chasing you?
It probably happened at DeWitt Clinton Park, the only park in the precinct. The novel also has them get a call about a skeleton asking for directions in a cemetery. The closest cemetery to Midtown is likely the third cemetery of the Spanish-Portuguese synagogue in Chelsea. The precinct also wouldn't have gotten the call for Pier 34, which is in Lower Manhattan. Still, the city council meeting shows a number of incidents, including several in the Rockefeller Plaza. With his hand forced, the mayor calls the Ghostbusters. After being released from Parkview Hospital, the boys travel north on 3rd and take a left on East 14th. This doesn't make sense if Parkview is a stand-in for Bellevue, but they may have forgotten the packs at the firehouse.
Hey, fellas, what about the packs? What about the packs?
But it turns out the proton packs are useless against the slime shell. They come up with a radical idea. Take the Statue of Liberty for a stroll and smash in from the skylight. In a deleted scene, Peter and Ray bicker about the best path to take from Liberty Island.
I'm gonna stay to the right of the channel, go ashore at Battery, go up the West Side Highway to 57, fly up 9, and cross the park at 65.
Does anybody speak English here?
Ray suggests they go ashore at Battery Park at the southern tip of Manhattan. They can then take the West Side Highway all the way up to 57th Street. Once they get to 9th Avenue, they can take a left to West 65th Street and go across Central Park along the 65th Traverse.
No. You want to go up FDR to 4-2, slide over to 5, and jump up 5.
Peter wants to head up the east side of the island along FDR, all the way to 42nd Street. They can take 42nd all the way to 5th Avenue and take a right. Their final path seems to be a compromise. After leaving the pedestal, Lady Liberty walks towards the Battery Park Authority on the west side of the island. They probably took the West Side Highway up since the boys at Pier 34 see them. The next shot we see is Libby taking a right from West 54th Street onto 5th Avenue.
Up 5? You can't go up 5. It's one way going the wrong way. Ray, we're walking a 150-foot national monument through Manhattan. You think we should worry about a traffic ticket?
Ray and Peter's paths converge at 5th Avenue and East 65th Street. With the majestic towers in the background, and evidence suggesting the museum has its back to the southeast portion of Central Park, it's likely located where the real-life Frick collection resides, at 1 East 70th Street. But what about all that slime heading towards the museum? Where did it flow? That's harder to establish, but here's what we know. Ray identifies the abandoned subway under 1st Avenue.
Van Horn, pneumatic transit. I can't believe it. It's the old pneumatic transit system. It's still here.
With a sign stating it was built in 1870. There was an actual pneumatic subway built under New York that same year. The beach pneumatic system lasted 3 years and was a demonstration on the possibility of air-pressured travel. It only had one car which shuttled back and forth to one stop. It traveled up Broadway from Murray to Warren Street. Assuming Van Horn started at the same place, we know the pneumatic system and slime went all the way up to 1st Avenue. The tunnel curves left across East 77th. This is where we first saw mood slime ooze out and later come out of Dana's bathtub. The flow goes down 5th to the Manhattan Museum of Art.
Yeah, it's all over the city, Pete. Under it, actually.
Rivers of this stuff. Yes, and it's all flowing right to the museum.
Yeah, to the museum.
Further south is the Central Park Zoo, where the pterodactyl appeared. It also came out of the sewer grates on West 59th, the same road where the slime was collected in the montage. It would also have to go under Times Square and Washington Square Park, since those ghosts were likely conjured from the ooze. But where did all this slime come from? In Ghostbusters 2, they had a theory.
Yeah, Your Honor. See, what we're trying to tell you is like all the bad feelings, all the hate, the anger, and violence of this city is turning into this sludge.
But what if it wasn't negative human emotions materializing in the form of a viscous, psychoreactive plasm? What if something, or someone, put it there? Ghostbusters the video game takes place in 1991. Business has picked up to the point where the Busters have taken on a new recruit. After a psi-energy pulse rocks New York, Slimer escapes and makes his way back to his old haunt, the Sedgwick Hotel. After giving it a clean bill of health, they hear an oh-so-familiar sound.
Wait, I know that thud.
When the boys arrive at ground level, they find the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man has returned. We see the Chrysler building in the background, meaning if it rose again from the Hudson River, it's heading east. The cutscene and the gameplay feature the same neon parking sign and diamond-patterned building as the boys follow Stay Puft. Since Gozer eventually arrives in Times Square and never passes the Chrysler Building, we know it's definitely traveling east down West 45th. As Gozer was walking down 45th, it caused enough damage to force the boys to take a detour north through an alley before heading east again on West 46th Street. They find the theater where the Hindenburg was performing, which aligns with the Manhattan Theater District.
We just did a service to humanity, kid. Hindenburg is a terrible show.
Ultimately, they turn left and find Stay Puft searching for something. Given the classic Coke bottle display, the building he is looking into is 2 Times Square, meaning this street is likely 47th, making Gamble Architecture's firm located between West 46th and 47th Street. If we backtrack their path, that puts the Sedgwick Hotel at the corner of 9th Avenue and West 45th Street. The location is on the edge of the Garment District, off the West Side Highway, and a few blocks from Times Square. Ray and the rookie dodge Stay Puft and sneak into Gamble Architecture. They are forced up to the roof, where the monstrous mascot appears above West 47th Street. When he's initially knocked off, Ray declares,
"Ha! Free s'mores for everybody from 54th Street to 5th Avenue. Happy Thanksgiving!"
Meaning his mess may have stretched as far north as 54th Street and as far east as 5th Avenue. While stopping several threats, the boys in gray keep seeing the same symbol. The video game calls this a mandala, a device used to concentrate psychokinetic energy.
Okay, for 1 minute, pretend someone here doesn't know what a mandala is.
A mandala is like a spiritual labyrinth.
And this one looks like a spiraling system that feeds into each successive node along the line until it reaches a culmination point. Before he died, Shandor must have set some mechanism in place, similar to the antenna in Dana's building.
They lay the symbol over a map of Manhattan and find several locations with heavy amounts of PKE align with it, including the Sedgwick Hotel, the New York Public Library, and the Natural History Museum.
Perfect fit.
No, not exactly. These points or nodes are labeled on the map. We see the library is listed as north of the reservoir around East 97th Street. The hotel is roughly on West 90th Street, and the museum looks to be on East 74th Street, east of the park. We know the library isn't there. Even the video game confirms it's on 5th.
Let me guess. He did some renovations on the public library building on 5th.
The Natural History Museum seems to be a clear analog to the American Museum of Natural History, but the facade doesn't match. At the beginning of the game, a psi energy pulse erupts from it. We see the pulse emerging south of the Empire State Building past the Flatiron Building. This location also doesn't match the one on the mandala map. However, in a deleted level, the boys exited the sewers following their encounter at the museum and arrived in the middle of the Thanksgiving Day parade. The parade historically goes down Central Park West, and it would make sense if the museum was intended to be the same address as the American Museum of Natural History, which the parade starts just south of at West 77th Street. Taking into account the real New York Public Library's location and assuming the museum is actually on Central Park West, the video game's mandala is significantly off. We know the nodes of the library, museum, and Sedgwick Hotel all fall on the triangle of the mandala. For a more accurate mapping of the museum and library's addresses, it needs to be adjusted to look more like this. This also puts the Sedgwick Hotel along the triangle. It also has Shandor Island in the middle of the Hudson River and the Central Park Cemetery in the heart of the city.
The night the last Shandor died, there was a huge tidal surge, and the river just swallowed the island whole. Shandor consecrated the island to Gozer, and the ghost world reclaimed it.
This may be surprising, but no, there wasn't an island in the Hudson River that sank. Still, in the video game it resurfaces as part of Shandor's plan to have his own destructor form. To enact this, we find Shandor had previously imprisoned a juvenile Slore on his private island. Shandor's cult harvested its natural secretion, black slime, and experimented with it. One of the many varieties was pink slime.
This is all looking a little familiar. Ray would be giggling right now. This must be where all the mood slime came from. Look, they must have pumped it straight into the sewers from here.
From the island, the psychomagnetheric slime was pumped into the city. Its location in the Hudson could also explain Stay Puft's genesis point in 1984 and 1991. To reach the island, they take Marine Ecto-8. We assume its dock is likely on Pier 26, which is nearby the firehouse. When the Mandala Guardians and their nodes are stopped, Ivo Shandor is forced to shut down the containment grid and use the ghost to fuel the feeder system. This causes an interdimensional cross rip which alters Central Park into a Gozerian cemetery. What's interesting is the showdowns with Gozer, Vigo, and Shandor all take place in the heart of Manhattan, all in alignment. But it would be decades before a confrontation of this proportion would take place again in the city. Several decades passed before the Ghostbusters took another bite out of the Big Apple. In 2021, Ghostbusters Afterlife took the haunts out of New York and down to Oklahoma. After discovering their grandfather's equipment, the Spangler family trapped Gozer and took the family business back to Manhattan. Ghostbusters Frozen Empire starts 120 years in the past, when Hook and Ladder 8 was a working firehouse. The firemen respond to a call at the Manhattan Adventurers Society. This is based on the real-life Explorers Club at 46th East 70th Street. Director Gil Kenan wanted a similar setting because he had his wedding there.
The specific choice to go there and then was connected to actually my wedding way back when. I got married at a place in New York City that was called the Explorers Club.
But the Manhattan Adventurers Society likely isn't in the Upper East Side. Considering that Hook and Ladder 8 responds, it's probably somewhere in the Tribeca area, but we can't be certain on the exact address. This is where Garaka nearly escapes from his orb, but is contained by the sole surviving Firemaster. We cut to the present, and the Ghostbusters are chasing the Hell's Kitchen sewer dragon. I honestly don't know why they call it this. Hell's Kitchen is a neighborhood in Midtown just south of the Upper West Side. Behind-the-scenes artwork shows it's been seen at several treatment plants and wastewater facilities across the boroughs, but none of them are near that area. The sewer dragon chase was filmed at 4 locations, and through movie magic has the ectomobile jump around quite a bit. The chase starts in the Flatiron District, much further south of Hell's Kitchen. Traveling east on West 21st Street, they head south onto 5th Avenue. You're going to notice a few repeating landmarks. This MasterCard flag, flying at 155th Avenue, which is their headquarters. Roma Pizza, which is next door with the feather flags out front. And the American flags hanging outside 115th 5th Avenue. So, while heading down 5th, we see them pass the MasterCard and Roma. The shot where the manhole cover explodes also has the MasterCard flag, despite just passing it. They then pass the American flags, which we see again in front of them as Gary almost hits a cyclist. Once again, they pass the MasterCard and drive past the American flags again, Roma Pizza again. We then jump further south. Another manhole cover explodes at 155 Lafayette Street in front of Love Machine Tattoo, next to Starbucks.
It's a Starbucks now.
Now we're back on 5th, and they're coming up on Roma Pizza, and then Roma Pizza again, with the American flags across the street, as yet another manhole cover blows with the dragon emerging. Once again, the MasterCard and Roma are seen, and after the sewer drag finishes sliming the Ecto, they pass 34 White Street. The 2 cars collide at the intersection of Church and White. Then they're back on Lafayette going south when Gary does a U-turn. When Phoebe deploys the gunner seat, they are back on 5th with, once again, the MasterCard flag. However, when the proton stream wrangles the ghosts, they are at Lafayette and Howard. Cut back to 5th, where the stream destroys a balcony above the American flag on 111 5th Avenue. The sewer dragon takes a left onto East 18th Street and Gary follows it. The RTV is then deployed on Lafayette before Howard. You see graffiti that reads Qzar, which is or was on 245 Canal Street number 5. This is visible from Lafayette at the corner of Canal. The RTV opens at Lafayette and Howard, but the sewer dragon climbs higher, which is where you can see Qzar again. The UCV is released near Starbucks.
It's a Starbucks now.
Stop that!
We then switch over to Chambers Street, where they are heading east. This is about a block past where the reporter was in the first film. Further down Chambers, the stream slices through an exit sign for the Brooklyn Bridge. This is across from the NYC Municipal Archives, which is also seen in the aerial shot. The UCV flies around the David N. Dinkins Manhattan Municipal Building. Up above, you can see Binkman Tower, and then the Brooklyn Bridge in the background. At the end of Chambers is the municipal building, the same one Ecto-1 departed from with the National Guard.
Come on, let's run some red light!
Gary crashes into bikes past the southwest corner of the municipal building off Center, right before the Brooklyn Bridge promenade. The guy really hates bikes. Aside from several cuts going back to 5th Avenue, the path does largely go south and then east. We can assume they roughly went south on 5th, then Lafayette, then Church, before going east on Chambers, where they made the bus behind the municipal building. Being close to City Hall, Mayor Walter Peck personally chastises them, vowing to tear down their firehouse. The Spanglers have moved into the same fire hall at 110 North Moore. Stan still owns Ray's Occult Books, presumably still in St. Mark's, where he smuggled in several mini-puffs that survived Gozer's entrapment. Nadim, the grandson of the firemaster that contained Garaka in 1904, sells the orb to Ray. When Ray uses a PKE meter on it, the god is able to extend his frozen influence and crack the storage facility. Trevor finds Slimer has taken up residence in the firehouse. This makes sense considering he was there in 1989. In fact, there was a deleted scene where Lewis stalked the Spud. Being a minor, Phoebe isn't allowed on the latest call and goes to Washington Square Park to play chess. We see the same arch that the Class 6 ducked under when Vigo vied for power. She meets a different haunt, Melody. Their chess match was actually filmed at Russell Square in London. The next day, the Busters take the Manhattan Bridge to Staten Island. They head to the Paranormal Research Center, which was formerly the Triborough Aquarium.
Once upon a time, this was a Triborough Aquarium. Most recently, it's been more of a squatter's paradise and rave venue.
In reality, this aquarium never existed. The exteriors were filmed at the Lions Pool Recreation Center on Staten Island. Production designer Eve Stewart mentions it was inspired by a Baltimore aquarium.
This tile, no. Tile, I did loads of research on abandoned aquariums, and I found an amazing one from the 30s in Baltimore.
Yeah.
And they had these incredible glazed tiles.
But the National Aquarium opened in 1981, and I can't find anything about one that was built in the 30s. However, Detroit's Belle Isle Aquarium is the oldest in North America and has similar glazed tiles as seen in the film. Still benched, Phoebe intercepts a call and heads with Podcast to the Upper East Side. They go to 133 First Avenue, home of the Ritz Diner, which in the Ghostbusters New York is Melody Diner. Despite being shot at, Melody shows up at the firehouse with an odd interest in the containment unit. We see Garaka's influence spread north from Staten Island to Brooklyn under the Myrtle Avenue Elevated, under the Washington Square Arch, and to the containment facility. Melody is walking down what appears to be New York, but is actually Peachtree Street Southwest in Atlanta. Behind her is CS Beauty at 87 Peachtree, which Phoebe and Melody later converse in front of. Looking to investigate where the orb came from, Trevor, Lucky, and Lars go to Nadim Razmati. We don't get much details, but we know his apartment is in Queens.
I go back to Queens, you go back to Narnia.
After destroying Fortitude, the animated lion statue in front of the New York Public Library, Phoebe is arrested. The Midtown South Precinct oversees the library, so she was probably booked at 357 West 35th Street. Phoebe is eventually tricked into releasing Garaka from his prison. Believing he found the firemaster that trapped him, he goes to the firemaster Smoke and Vape at 926 Broadway in Brooklyn next to the Myrtle Elevated. When Garaka retrieves his horns from Queens, he unleashes the death chill. It first strikes Brooklyn's Coney Island, then Broome Street near Eldridge. Garaka's siege ends where the film began, at the firehouse. New York was always a part of Ghostbusters, and in a way, Ghostbusters will always be a part of New York. Hook and Ladder 8, despite being a working firehouse, still has thousands of fans each year making a pilgrimage to the site. People take tours to find the exact spot scenes were shot so they can briefly live in the world of Ghostbusters. Manhattan is an immortal monument, ever-changing and evolving. Billions have walked its boulevards, and billions more will. It is the world's largest graveyard filled with bodies, dreams, and memories that will never truly die. And those streets will always be haunted by the spirit of Ghostbusters. If you like this video and think we deserve it,
Got a run! Got a date with a ghost!
Okay, whatever happens, let's be professional.
Please subscribe. I'm Devin with Channeling Spirits, and thanks for watching.